Welcome to Cheat Confessions. Let's get started with today's story.
I have replayed that rooftop moment so many times now that I can tell you exactly what the air smelled like. Honeysuckle from the planters on the street below. I can tell you the exact sound of Elliot's chair scraping the floor when he stood up. I can tell you the precise moment Cameron's knuckles went white against that railing. I replay it because somewhere inside that 4-minute toast is the exact second I handed a man who loved me everything he needed to walk away forever. And I was too busy expecting applause to see it happening. My name is Isolde Hartley. I'm 31. And for most of my adult life, I believed that honesty was my strongest quality. That saying exactly what I thought made me interesting, made me real, set me apart from all the careful, polished people who hid their true selves behind social performance and polite lies. I wore that belief like armor. Bold, fearless, unapologetic. Cameron Vance was my boyfriend of 3 years. 33, steady, quiet in the way that makes people feel safe without trying. He listened more than he talked. He remembered how you took your coffee. He fixed things around the apartment without being asked, and never once made you feel like you owed him something for it. I used to say we balanced each other. I brought the energy. He brought the stability. What I didn't understand until it was far too late was that I had confused his patience for permanence, his consistency for unconditional acceptance, his steadiness for something I could push against indefinitely without consequence. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening in early spring. We were walking along the riverside after dinner, the kind of evening that should have been easy, and Cameron asked me quietly why his best friend Trevor had been texting me late at night about inside jokes. His tone wasn't accusatory, just careful, just curious. I felt defensive immediately. I told him Trevor was helping me plan a surprise anniversary party, which was partly true, but the defensiveness I felt in that moment, the immediate need to redirect his concern back at him as a character flaw, that should have told me something about myself that I wasn't ready to hear. Instead, I filed it under Cameron being insecure. And I moved on. I was very good at moving on without looking at what I was leaving behind. He asked me 6 times. I want to be clear about this, because looking back, it's the part that stays with me longest. Not the toast, not the parking lot, not the 40 pages a process server handed me outside his office. The 6 times. 6 separate moments where Cameron came to me quietly, without raising his voice, and asked me to just be honest with him. The first was the riverside walk. He asked about Trevor's late-night texts. I called him paranoid. The second was a few nights later at the apartment. He showed me an Instagram story. 10:37 on a Thursday night, a bar called the Edison Room, me and Trevor with drinks in hand, laughing close to the camera, and asked why I had told him I was working late. I told him his need for explanations felt like control. I turned his hurt into his flaw. He asked about my changed passcode, about calls taken in the hallway. He said clearly, I'm not accusing you of anything. I just want honesty. And I told him maybe he was the one with something to hide. That his career had stalled while mine was advancing, and maybe that was the real issue. That his questions were suffocating me. Cameron walked to the balcony without another word. That night, he slept on the couch. His phone charger moved from the bedroom. His wallet beside it instead of in the usual bowl by the door. I noticed every detail and told myself he just needed space to cool down. What I didn't see, or what I refused to see, was that Cameron had already started building something. A document on his laptop. Timestamps, screenshots, a quiet, methodical record of every lie told casually, every deflection, every moment his concern had been weaponized back against him. He wasn't cooling down. He was preparing, and I was busy designing a rooftop party. I spent days on that toast. Over 300 words, carefully structured. Start warm, then pivot to something edgier. Something that would get a reaction. Something people would talk about for weeks. I wanted to prove I was different. That I wasn't afraid of the truth. That I wasn't one of those couples performing happiness without ever saying anything real. My best friend Mara read it at lunch, and her smile faded halfway through the page. The draft described Trevor flirting with me at a house party 6 months earlier. How he had called me beautiful. How it felt good to be noticed that way. How he had told me I was wasting my energy on someone who didn't appreciate how vibrant I was. How it made me feel alive in a way I had forgotten was possible. Mara looked up and said softly, maybe it's too much. That people might not take it the way I intended. That Cameron might be genuinely hurt. I told her honesty was what made me different from boring couples who lied to each other. I said if Cameron couldn't handle a little truth, maybe we weren't right for each other. Then Trevor posted an Instagram story tagging me at that coffee shop. Me laughing, leaning close to the camera, my hand on his arm, with a caption calling me his favorite co-conspirator. 3 people who followed both Cameron and me had already taken screenshots and sent them to him before I had even finished my coffee. Cameron texted me that afternoon and asked about the caption. I told him Trevor had just stopped by for 5 minutes and that Cameron was being ridiculous. I said if he kept this up, I was going to start questioning whether he trusted me at all. He screenshotted the exchange, added it to the document, noted the timestamp. The evening before the party, he came to me one final time. Asked quietly, just asked, if we could keep the speech light. Mentioned his mother would be there. His brother. His co-workers. Said he just wanted it to be a good memory. I rolled my eyes and told him his controlling behavior was exactly why I needed friends like Trevor, who understood me without putting me in a box. Cameron took a slow breath. Nodded once. Walked back to the railing. That was the 6th time. He didn't ask again. The party was everything I had imagined. String lights above us in a geometric pattern. A fire pit surrounded by low lounge seating. The city skyline blinking on as the sun went down. 30 people dressed beautifully on a warm Saturday night celebrating 3 years. I felt electric, alive in a way I hadn't felt in months. I wore the red dress. I was 2 drinks in before the toasts and laughing loudly, and this was what I did best, filling a room with energy, making everyone feel like they were part of something. Cameron greeted people calmly. Shook hands. Thanked everyone for coming. Played the gracious host while I held court near the bar. I caught his jaw tighten when Trevor's hand rested on my lower back during a group photo. I noticed his smile didn't reach his eyes. I noticed and I filed it under him, needing to relax, and moved on. I tapped my champagne flute with a fork. The crowd quieted. I started warmly. Said Cameron remembered birthdays and made coffee on hard mornings and fixed things without being asked. Linda Vance's face softened. People smiled and nodded. It was going perfectly. Then I shifted. I laughed, the champagne making me feel loose and certain. And I said Cameron was wonderful but a little too safe sometimes. And that Trevor, standing right there with his camera, had once shown me what real fun looked like. I described how he had flirted with me. Called me beautiful. Told me I was wasting my energy on someone who didn't appreciate how vibrant I was. I said it felt good to be noticed that way. To feel desired. Interesting. Alive. I said Cameron should thank Trevor for keeping things interesting. For reminding me what it felt like to be wanted. I expected laughter. The silence that fell was absolute. Someone's phone clattered against the rooftop floor. Mara took a step back from me like I had become something dangerous. Elliot stood up from his chair. The scrape of it against the floor cutting through the quiet like something breaking. Linda Vance set down her glass and stared at me with her mouth slightly open. Trevor laughed nervously and raised his glass. Said something about how I always knew how to get a reaction. But his voice cracked. Nobody joined him. Cameron stood motionless at the railing. Back to the crowd. Knuckles white against the metal. He didn't turn around. Didn't say a word. He just stood there while 30 people watched and waited. And the string lights above us felt too bright. The fire pit too hot. The diesel hum from the building below suddenly too loud. My sister Gwen pushed through the crowd and pulled me aside. Said I had just humiliated Cameron in front of everyone who mattered. That I had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. I told her people were being too sensitive. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me, and walked away without another word. Cameron stayed until the end. He wasn't going to let me ruin it completely. Those were his words, I found out later. He had invited these people. He owed them the courtesy of seeing the night through. When the party ended, we walked in silence to the parking lot across the street. The sound of my heels on the asphalt, the only noise between us. Under a street light casting everything in harsh yellow, he stopped and turned to face me. He quoted my exact words back at me. Asked why I had thought it was acceptable to tell 30 people that his best friend had flirted with me and that I had felt more alive with Trevor than with him. I tried to laugh. Said it was a compliment to both of them. That I was just being honest. His voice stayed level, but the tone had hardened into something I had never heard from him before. He said this wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about respect. He had made him a joke in front of his family, his co-workers, people he would face every single day, and there was no taking that back. Elliot stood 20 feet away, phone raised, the red recording light visible in the dark. I demanded he stop, my voice rising. Elliot said calmly that Cameron might need it later. That documentation was important. Cameron got in his car without another word. I called his name. He drove away. My phone buzzed. Mara. For words. I can't defend you on this one. I stood alone in that parking lot with champagne on my red dress and the echo of my own voice in my head. And for the first time, the word honest felt like something different in my mouth. 2 days later, Elliot slid a USB drive across his kitchen table. Every Instagram story, every chat, every voice note, organized by date, time-stamped, backed up. Cameron pocketed it and said he would handle things with clarity, not anger. That distinction, I understand now, was the most significant thing he ever said about who he was. That Sunday I went to Linda Vance's house for family dinner expecting things to have settled. They hadn't. Midway through the meal, Linda asked me directly, had I really said those things in front of everyone? Her voice was calm. Her eyes were not. I tried to laugh it off. Said people had blown it out of proportion. That I'd been tipsy and trying to be funny. Linda said Elliot had played her the parking lot recording. She said there was no misunderstanding. My words had been clear and deliberate. She told me humiliating her son in public was unacceptable. That I was not welcome at family gatherings until I offered a real apology. Not an excuse. A genuine acknowledgement of the harm I had caused. I looked to Cameron expecting him to intervene. To soften it. He said nothing. Just sat there cutting his chicken into small pieces. Face completely blank. My sister Gwen stared at her plate and didn't look up. The meal ended early. 2 days later, I was in a pharmacy picking up allergy medication and heard 2 women whispering behind me in line. One said she thought I was the girl from the toast video. The other said she'd seen the clip in a local Facebook group. Said it was painful to watch. Said she felt bad for the boyfriend. The toast video had 4,000 views. My hands were shaking when I grabbed my prescription and left. That evening, Cameron sat at our kitchen table with a binder of household documents in front of him. Bank statements, lease agreements, utility bills, all organized with colored tabs. I demanded to know what he was doing. He said he was separating shared accounts, making sure everything was documented. I said he was being dramatic, that I had apologized privately and didn't understand what else he wanted. He asked me to name one person who had defended me since the party. One person who had reached out to say I was right. I couldn't answer. He closed the binder carefully, aligned the edges, and said he was done with this conversation. That he would handle things his own way now, on his own timeline. That I would understand soon enough what that meant. Kyle and Jenna invited me over a few days later. Elliot was there too. Kyle said they needed to talk about the party. I started defending myself immediately. Cameron had turned everyone against me. People were being dramatic. It had all been blown out of proportion. Jenna interrupted. Elliot placed his phone on the coffee table, showing a group chat I wasn't in, called Real Talk. Inside were 6 months of screenshots. My Instagram stories with Trevor. Timestamps of lies I had told Cameron. The toast video, now uploaded to YouTube. Kyle said they had supported me for years. Defended me to people who said I was too much. But what I did at that anniversary party was cruel and public. He asked if I had even apologized. I said I shouldn't have to apologize for being honest. The room went silent. Jenna asked me to leave. That night, Cameron came back for the last of his things. I begged him to talk to me. He stood near the door with his keys in his hand, and he listed every chance he had given me. The Riverside Walk, the coffee shop, the passcode, the lie about where I'd been, the night before the party, the parking lot after. 6 times, each one named precisely. He said each time I had chosen to mock him or dismiss him or redirect his pain back at him as insecurity. He was done. He told me I would hear from the appropriate people soon. The door closed with a soft click. I drafted a long apology text. Rewrote it twice. Hit send. It was delivered. It was read. 3 hours passed without a reply. The next morning our shared calendar was wiped clean. An email arrived. Cameron had requested removal from the lease. I Googled the address that appeared on the calendar. Law firms. A financial advisor's office. I called his number. Voicemail. Elliot's number was blocked. Trevor had unfollowed me. The group chat was archived. A new chat called Spring Plans had been created with everyone from our friend group, except me. Then a process server found me outside Cameron's office. 40 pages. Defamation. Harassment. Petition for a protection order. The toast video. The parking lot voice note. Witness statements. Instagram screenshots with timestamps going back 6 months. Everything documented with the quiet precision of a man who had been watching longer than I knew and building something I had never imagined he was capable of. He said he had given me 6 chances to apologize. Now he was protecting himself. I lost the apartment, moved into a studio with stacked boxes and no window facing the river. The joint account was closed. My card declined in front of coworkers at a work lunch. The friend group removed me from everything. I was uninvited from a wedding I had already bought an outfit for. 300 Instagram followers gone in a week. Trevor blocked me when his girlfriend found out what the toast had described. People I had known for years turned away at parties like they hadn't seen me. Work found the video on Reddit. HR called me in. My promotion was quietly removed from consideration. I started eating lunch alone at my desk. 3 weeks later, I tried to find Cameron outside his office to apologize. He told me it was 3 months too late, that the protection order hearing was in 2 weeks, and if I contacted him again, I would be in violation. He walked away. Elliot followed without looking at me. Now I sit on metro platforms during rush hour, and I think about the version of myself who stood on that rooftop and thought she was being brave. I lost a relationship, a family who had welcomed me for 3 years, a friend group built over most of my adult life, a career milestone, an apartment I loved, all of it gone. Not because Cameron was cruel, not because the world was unfair, because I had spent months treating someone's patience as a guarantee, his gentleness as something I could exploit, his 6 quiet requests for honesty as opportunities to demonstrate how little his feelings constrained me. I called it honesty. What it actually was cruelty dressed in the language of courage. I called it being real. What it actually was performing boldness at the expense of the person closest to me and calling the performance a virtue, so I never had to look at the damage underneath. Mara told me, the morning after the party, quiet and careful in that gym locker room, that maybe I should think about why everyone was pulling away. I accused her of betrayal. She closed her locker and walked out. She was right. The toast became legal evidence. The parking lot voice note became documented proof. The friends who had called me fearless for years now crossed the street. Cameron's mother told me never to contact the family again. A calendar reminder appeared on my phone 2 months after the party. Anniversary party. Rooftop bar. I stared at it. The red dress, the string lights, the champagne, the exact moment the silence fell. And I sat with it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because here is what I know now, what I needed to understand before any of it happened. Honesty is not the same as the right to say anything. Courage is not the same as disregard. Boldness is not a license to humiliate someone who loves you in front of everyone they know and call their pain insecurity when they ask you to stop. Cameron gave me 6 chances to choose him. I chose my performance every single time. And when the performance was finally over, when the string lights came down and the crowd went home and the silence on that rooftop became the silence in my studio, I was alone with the only honest thing I had said in months. The truth I had been too busy being bold to face. That what I destroyed myself.
Thank you for watching.